Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Galucki, and welcome to the 428th Imagine Greater Buffalo program, and another virtual Imagine lecture hosted by our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Today's program wraps up the 10-week summer series focusing on creating a culture of sustainability. Imagine place-based lifelong learning. Thank you so much for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or Cezanne as I like to pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, we're going to start with our program shortly, but first, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted during our discussion, which will last about 15 minutes or so. We'll have time for questions at the end. So if you do have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. This program is being recorded. You'll be able to watch it again later on the library's Facebook and YouTube channels and share the link with your networks. As a reminder, we'll be here on Zoom, life willing, every Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. with a great lineup of local speakers. Now, this has been a 10-week program. The issue of sustainability is certainly gaining awareness in our community and well beyond. Indeed, the thought process behind this was inspired by my co-host and the organization that he represents. J.D. Hartman is with us today. We invited any of the speakers that could make it in the previous 9 weeks to join us as well. So we'll hear from them if they're, again, able to be on this call. The idea is, what would a sustainable community look like? I think the world is literally looking for answers to that question. And my thinking was, here in Buffalo, round up, let's see what we can hear from the private sector, the public sector, the educational sector, primarily through the university at Buffalo, and the not-for-profit sector. And in that sense, I'm going to start with JD because it is the private sector that very much impressed me, and the JD's membership and involvement, I think from the beginning of the organization, of a group called Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable. In May, they had a 2-day summit, a virtual summit. I observed that, was a listener and observer, and was very impressed with what the private sector is doing to explore sustainability in their own companies and the communities that they live in. So, JD, tell us a little bit more about WNY, Western New York, SBR, Sustainable Business Roundtable.
Thanks, Dennis, and welcome everyone. I also want to acknowledge that we have one of the founders and I believe a current board member of the Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable on today's call, Ryan McPherson. I also have a representative from the University of Buffalo, Susan Clark. Both have been speakers on this 10-week series. We also have Eugene Rose Burney from the Western New York Land Conservancy, Jay Burney, who represents a number of organizations, Pollinators Association among them. And thanks for joining us, everyone. I guess I'm going to leave the SBR to Ryan when he has a chance to speak. Just speak to this creating a culture of sustainability. You know, from my perspective, and I toil in the sustainability space every day from an investment angle. I'm a sustainable, responsible investment advisor using environmental, social justice, and open governance criteria to assess investments, as well as the rigorous financial criteria. But So anyway, I mean, we've heard from academia, the nonprofit, for-profit, and educational, and so on and so forth. So I think there's little doubt that sustainability at one time was creeping into our culture to now that it's firmly embedded in our culture. You can't really go anywhere. Entertainment, doesn't matter where everyone has recycling bins, they're reducing, they're reusing. I mean, businesses are looking to lower their carbon footprints. It's just, I mean, it is a part of our culture, which I think is really, it's a positive, it's hopeful. But I think going forward, the risk is that, like anything that becomes a cultural norm, it gets watered down. and it's hard to distinguish, between those measures that have an impact and those that are just marketing measures. And I don't think we can fool around on this issue of sustainability, or whatever you want to, climate action or environmental stewardship, however you want to frame it, that we really, this is, in many people's assessment, and Susan addressed it, as she being a researcher earlier in the program, that this is a real crisis by many measures, and we need to make an impact. And how do we both incorporate this into our culture, but ensure that we make a difference? So that's kind of my summation of what we've heard so far from our 9 previous speakers, and where we need to go from here.
Thanks, JD. What I'd like to do, and I see, as you pointed out, some of our speakers are there. Folks, time is so short. Try in a couple minutes to give your thoughts if you'd like to. I have someone, Mark Wensler, I want to introduce from Chautauqua Institution. And I think you'll be pleasant. You'll see why it fits as part of this wrap up. But Jay, you're kind of in my mind, a senior citizen, spent a lifetime, from my awareness, is really focusing on the region and all the different aspects that go into sustainability. Focusing heavily now on the waterfront. What are your thoughts? What you've heard some of the speakers, and you presented just last week with your son, JG. How do the two of you think? You can kick it off.
Well, thanks for identifying me as a senior citizen. I guess I've been around the block a little bit, but thanks. Yeah, I've been working in sustainability for a long time, over 50 years. And we held a sustainability conference in Buffalo in 2001. And our keynote was Jane Goodall, we had David Suzuki, we had economic people, we had scientists. And we were talking then, obviously the elephant in the room, which is climate change. And so sustainability is about a lot of things. It means a lot of things to different people. People have come to understand it more in recent years, as JD points out. At least they've come to use it more. And I look at it from the perspective that we have to have economic sustainability. And what does that mean? To me, it means primarily looking at local businesses, because local businesses care about a community. Social sustainability is about social justice as much as it's about anything. But the real bottom line for me is the environment. And also, one of the ways that I characterize that is about biodiversity. Biodiversity is really the engine that runs the planet. It's the engine that helps the atmosphere be stable. It's the engine that helps clean water and clean air. And we don't think about that enough. I know that everybody that's working in sustainability says, the bottom line is the environment. But is it really? When you make your decisions, is it really an environmental decision? When we do development, for instance, do we develop in the best way for nature and the environment? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say we're in trouble, because the answer to that question is no. We are in deep trouble. And the UN report that came out a few weeks ago is exemplified by what's happening in the South, in New Orleans. This is a really powerful hurricane, and we're going to be facing those, and we've faced these weather situations here. We have to do better. I'm glad that we're talking, and that's basically, my elevator speech.
Jean, can you add to that from your perspective?
Oh, sure. Yes. So, I mean, I work at the Western New York Land Conservancy, and we're a land trust. And I think that, in that sense, I'm fortunate to be able to work on these issues of sustainability, like very directly. A lot of you are. And the Land Conservancy, we think about sustainability, it's a complicated issue, but having a clean, healthy place to live, our environment being clean, our air being clean, our water being clean, having room for wildlife and biodiversity and plants and forests, having places for us to grow food. This is what I'm able to do. This is what we're able to do at the Land Conservancy, is protect these places, work with communities to save the places that matter most, that clean our water, that clean our air, that provide wildlife habitat, that are where we grow our food, our farms. And these places, not only do they do all that, provide all those services, but these are places that have meaning, give meaning to our lives. They're places where we can go and be outside, maybe walk with your kids through a forest, or, especially during COVID, where this was so much more relevant, needing places outside in nature to go, to be safe and socially distanced. And that's what we're able to do. That's what a lot of us can do on this call, but at the Land Conservancy, is we're able to protect these places, give these places a chance for the future, and give people a chance to experience these places. And I think that's just very direct action that is what we can contribute to a more sustainable region.
Hey, Dennis, I was wondering if Ryan could provide us some perspective as his role, as in leadership role in the SBR, the Sustainable Business Roundtable.
I was about to ask him and then follow up. I see Susan is on as well. Susan Clark from UB, with head of the graduate program in sustainability. Ryan, if you're available, give us your thoughts, please.
Sure. Well, I work for Dr. Clark, so I will defer to her on these issues of substance. I would just like to thank Jay and Jean. Jay, I love the way you teed that up on the triple bottom line piece. It's always how it all comes down, right? And if we don't have the life support systems, even if we're just focused on us selfish humans, we need those life support systems just to be, right? Let alone obviously the biodiversity components that also sustain our lives and the beauty of this planet, right? JD, I'm usually the optimist in the room, and I definitely agree with what you said that we have made progress. But I think to Jay's point, I don't even want to call it the United Nations report, because 195 nations signed off on that report. So I will call it the planet's report that every nation agreed to, as well as 200 of the world's leading scientists in this space. So like, you never have that type of consensus ever. The message from that report is frightening. If you aren't frightened right now, you aren't paying attention. And it is for those of us who, both have children and grandchildren and think about our future. We have got to ramp up the type of action that we're taking. And I used to think that government was the one who was going to be able to do that. And I still think it has to play a critical role. But to your point, JD, the speed in which the market can work, if harnessed properly and with a fair set of rules to get us there, I really think is one of our primary levers right now, especially when it comes to taking effective climate action at the scale that we need to. And with 30 years of emissions already baked in through 2050, which is one of the conclusions of that report, we do have, the optimistic thing here is that we do have a chance to actually get control of what we have done. And I think that you've seen a lot of the corporate world starting to realize that, not necessarily because it's the right thing to do, but because it is the rational thing to do if you want your business model to work, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm excited about that. And I think we've got a lot of work to do on this, but I do think that we are starting to get to a tipping point of people really focusing. And unfortunately, I think that's largely because of the pain that we see happening, whether that's yesterday or the wildfires that are raging throughout this country and others. And you know, we have an opportunity here to not only stop that pain, but also, I think, to create new models of equity and empowerment for people. So I'll get off my soapbox there, but that means that for companies to, if they don't know what to do, to jump into the Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable, start playing a role, start learning, start figuring out how they can make a difference. And there's a lot of great support systems. Many of the speakers here today who help do that. Susan, what do you think?
Well, before Susan hops on, I want to just ask you one quick question. In your presentation, which was the first one in the series, you alluded to some ranking that UB has, and it was pretty impressive. It was a ranking that compares educational or colleges and universities throughout the planet. I got the impression. Could you just mention that again and elaborate what it's called and how significant it is for UB?
Sure. It's the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking, and it ranked us, you know, with a very favorable ranking in terms of taking climate action. And I think we have done some good things here at the university. A lot of great staff and faculty and students, people like Susan and others, and that's great. We have a lot more to do. You know, I think it's good to celebrate small milestones, but you know, there's a 10-point plan that we have at this university with 10 different working groups advancing in all of those areas that are going to get us to neutrality. But I know Susan and I and our colleagues wake up every day wondering, like, oh boy, this is not easy work. How do we get an institution our size down to zero? But we're on our way, and it was good to get those accolades. But I think hopefully it just helps fuel us, because the job in front of us is pretty monumental.
Well, congratulations on that. Take the stepping stones as they happen and celebrate them. Susan, could you add to that, please?
Yeah, sure. Just want to say thanks for having me today. So yeah, a couple of reactions. I think my reactions are probably similar to some of Ryan's as well, but to JD's comments on, you know, how we have this culture of sustainability, I would definitely agree that we're definitely seeing sustainability in a lot of places and just about everywhere where we go, which I think is fantastic. But I think just, you know, what Ryan said, I don't think we've kind of done the low-hanging fruit, in my opinion. You know, we're doing things that kind of fit in with our lifestyles. You know, we can change the type of car we drive, for example. You know, we're all recycling more and trying to recycle the right way, and we're changing our light bulbs. But I think some of the really hard decisions, how much we're consuming, who we're consuming from, those types of things are much harder, I think, to change in our lifestyles, and especially in our American culture. And I think there's a lot more that has to happen on the behavioral and just like social side, you know, and just changing the way we think and the norms of our society if we're really going to make progress, the really hard, you know, deeper progress that I think we have to make to react to the reports like Ryan referred to. And I think part of that, you know, adds to also what Jay was saying in terms of, you know, a lot of the decisions we make, even though we'd like to say that they're all based on environmental, you know, information or trying to make the best decisions for the environment, often it does come down to economics, right, for a lot of us. And so I think that says our economic system has to change. Again, not an easy thing to do, but if, you know, the things that we buy reflected their actual true costs to the environment and to society, then everyone would probably make much more responsible choices there as well. So I think got a lot of work to do, but I'm also an optimistic person. And now that I'm directing this new graduate program at UB, man, I'm seeing such passion and drive among students to really want to work on all of these really, challenging issues locally and internationally as well. And so I guess when, as Ryan said, we wake up, it sometimes feels like such a heavy burden. But through these student projects and things, we're sort of chipping away at a lot of these issues. And so I just try to remember that we've got a lot of folks that are really passionate about these topics, and the next generation just keeps on sort of impressing me in terms of what they would do. So maybe I'll just end there, but those are kind of my high level thoughts.
Good thoughts. Susan, I was remiss in both for you and Ryan. Please just give us your titles and so we have a sense of your position at UB, please, for the record.
Sure, yeah.
Susan,
I'm Susan Clark. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Environment and Sustainability. I'm also the director of the MA, the Masters in Sustainability Leadership Program at UB.
And Ryan?
I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer here at the university.
Very good. Let me introduce Mark Wetzel. Mark, you're on here someplace. We'll find you. There you are. I just literally met Mark yesterday. I knew of his existence. He's a recent hire at Chautauqua Institution. For the first time, they are inaugurating a staff person dealing with sustainability. And give you a sense of the person, he can tell you a little bit background, and he's got a couple-minute visual to show us. But you have to be impressed when a guy lives in Washington and rides his bike to Chautauqua from Washington, D.C. to begin his statement, if you will, about sustainability. Mark, tell us about yourself and your role at Chautauqua Institution and how it should be seen as a Western New York resource, greater Buffalo resource, if you stretch Buffalo in my imagination, and see how it fits in going forward. Go ahead.
Oh, well, thanks, Dennis. And I really appreciate being welcomed late to this party. I feel like since I've arrived at Chautauqua, I've been looking for my tribe, and I think I just found them. So you guys are awesome. I'm sorry I missed the program this summer. I would have loved to hear each of your talks. But I've just about recovered from my bike ride. It was fun. But I've been at Chautauqua for 3 months now, and I'll just tell you a little bit about the initiative, but I really see this as very much a collaborative initiative. I'm one person, and there's a lot that we want to do. And there's a lot that I can learn from all of you. And so if I'll pull up like one slide real quick just to show you what I'm thinking about this initiative, and then happy to answer any questions that you might have. Let me just share this now. Okay, can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So I'm really imagining, kind of with Chautauqua Institution, sort of 3 components of the initiative. One is our operations. I know Ryan and Susan, you just talked about the work that University of Buffalo is doing. And I really think the university model is a good one for Chautauqua. We're not really like any, we're pretty unique and not like anything else, but I think most like a university in terms of having a campus with lots of buildings and operations. I have looked into the Second Nature Pledge. I would love to talk with both of you more about what Buffalo is doing and how we might use your model at Chautauqua to drive towards net zero carbon, and unpacking that everything else that means in terms of waste and transportation. And I'd like to do that in a way that involves the surrounding community, that just doesn't happen inside the gates of Chautauqua, right? I want to make sure the community surrounding Chautauqua benefits from whatever investments we are making. Second is in our programs, our lectures, our networks, our national and global voice, advancing dialogue and inspiring action. And part of Chautauqua's vision of opening this office in DC in 2018, where I'm based, is to really have more of a national and global influence. And then finally, the lake and the larger ecoregion around the lake, lots and lots of work being done to advance ecological restoration of the lake. But guess what? You know, we have climate change that is sort of undoing a lot of the progress that we've started to make. So really working on the long-term climate and ecological resilience plan for the lake.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a quick interruption. I don't think your slides are advancing.
They're not. Okay.
I would love to see them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for letting me know. I don't know what's going on here. Let's see here.
Frozen on the first one.
Yeah, that's happening before. I don't know what.
Maybe go to slideshow mode or.
Yeah, I'm in slideshow mode, but let me exit this. Sorry about that, guys. And thanks for letting me know. All right. All right, is this, can you see the slide with the
There
three?
it is.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
So you see the
Three
operations, the programs, and the lake. And you didn't see like the fancy twirly things that it did, but you get the gist of it. So, and then there's kind of three. So that's the what, right? The what is the operations, the programs, the lake, and the sort of the how is through education, stewardship, and justice. And I want to make sure that everything we do at Chautauqua, that we are thinking about environmental justice as we advance these initiatives. So I'll stop there. And there's more to this, but I'll stop my share and I can send that around. But thanks for giving me a couple of minutes just to let you know what we're up to. And I really grateful for making these connections and looking forward to following up with all of you.
Mark and I chatted yesterday, and yeah, invite the questions. But for me, we've had a Buffalo Day, one set aside nicely by Chautauqua for the last 12 years that we created. But what I get the impression from Mark is that sustainability and these issues will be woven in to the general 9-week program and beyond the off season. And that's what's, to me, most exciting. So from that standpoint, think of this as another resource. But go ahead, please ask Mark some questions if you have some. I heard somebody start to talk. And
I'm just glad Chautauqua is, obviously it has a rich history in this space, but Mark, I'm really happy to have you advancing this work. And I have learned to never speak on behalf of Susan, but I feel very confident that both of us would love to touch base with you and either have you out here or and really learn from you as well. So I'll reach out and we'll set that up. But kudos for jumping into this.
Yeah, I think, I think my next stop is Buffalo on my way back to Chautauqua in the fall. So
there you go.
Can I make a quick statement?
Go ahead, please, Jay.
Dennis, yesterday you introduced us to Mark, and I think that the headline which was missing is that Mark introduced Elizabeth Colbert at Chautauqua a few weeks or months back. Wow. Elizabeth Colbert, 6th extinction. How did that go, Mark?
Personal hero, gosh, it was really thrilling for me to be able to do that. And I got to spend some one-on-one time with her. And she's really thrilled about what Chautauqua is doing and wants to help. And I found that to be the case with so many of the speakers we had this season who touched on climate or environment or justice issues. And so it's really want to kind of harness all of that intellectual firepower in helping advance this initiative.
Very good. Joy, I see we have some questions coming in. Can you?
We do. We have a question, another question for Mark. Are you or will you be working with the Chautauqua Watershed Land Conservancy and their landscape program? And
absolutely. You know, John Jablonski is one of the first people I met with. Really appreciate what they're doing and how we can support that. So, you know, we're not going to take over the lake, restoration work. We're going to be an active partner in science-driven solutions, but that's a great organization, the Lake Association as well. We're going to work with all those partners in helping support the great work that's already being done. I
might add that the lake was added as part of Chautauqua's strategic plan for the first time just a couple of years ago when that plan was written, and that really led to the hiring of somebody to start talking and being involved with sustainability. Other questions, Joy?
There are no other questions. Just a thank you for talking about this topic the past summer.
You're welcome.
I do have one thing that just dawned on me is, I think a Chautauqua, and not only, as Mark mentioned, is it unique, but it does have a world-class, worldwide reputation, as does UB, as you mentioned, Dennis and Ryan and Susan picked up on. And, I think our own Western New York Land Conservancy is fine an organization that exists on the planet. And I'm 65, I've been around, and I'm not just blowing smoke. And, when I think of the SBR, the Sustainable Business Roundtable, and I think of M&T Bank and Rich Products, and that's just a couple. I mean, they're recognized as some of the finest, most well-run businesses on the planet. I just think, what we have here in Western New York, Buffalo, is remarkable, and we owe it to ourselves and to the world and planet at large to continue on and as I think Susan mentioned and Jay I think kicked us off with it and do better. Because this is, whether we have kids or grandkids or otherwise, this is important work. So I've been honored to spend the last couple months with you all. Thank you.
Very nice. And unless there's any last comments, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of things. First of all, behind me is our Outer Harbor area where the copse of trees, where the amphitheater is going. We're concerned about that. We're trying to promote appropriate development out there. Current development involves demolishing all of these trees. So we have a lot of stuff to fight and a lot of good issues. We have great groups. I'm glad that JD mentioned the West New York Land Conservancy. There's a lot of groups doing work here. A lot of them are online with us today. If you want to help, send some money to the West New York Land Conservancy. It'll be well spent. So we've got a lot we can do. And thanks for having us here this summer, Dennis.
You're quite welcome. And I wanted to focus on the waterfront, so I appreciate that picture image behind you, because in many ways, that's where Buffalo starts. The world is talking in terms of 2050 and 2030 and carbon neutral. I'm at a point where one of the great technological marvels of America was completed here almost 200 years ago, the Erie Canal. We're the terminus. And that 2025 celebration should be holding our energies towards giving our contribution to the world. We helped shape America basically with that Erie Canal as folks went west and raised food and sent the food back east by way of Buffalo. So we were the intersection of America, the crossroads of America in many ways. And I think we can be that in this sustainability discussion. Nobody likes to be told what to do top down. Most people appreciate examples of good behavior, good people of goodwill trying to do the right thing from bottom up. And that's what I think is going on here in Buffalo. And JD, I think that's what you're pointing to. And again, my delight in seeing the private sector, the group that makes the economy run, if you will, out of their best interest, figuring out ways to provide goods and services, but more importantly, make sure their own houses are sustainable. And it's in that practice that I think we can all learn. This program has been an attempt to garner something, I'm going to call it, for the Western New York Sustainable Development Collaborative, for the sake of some identity, and we'll just keep adding people. The Cezanne schedule, or the Imagine schedule, going forward by Cezanne, will have the fourth Tuesday. It's always been around nature and science. And I'm going to start dubbing that from STEM to sustainability as a theme, because we have created a culture of STEM thinking in just the last decade, enabling young ladies, girls and ladies, to pursue careers in science that they were kind of moving away from, and it was noticed, and really STEM was born in that. we created through this platform, helped nourish Western New York STEM, which exists. So we'll get them involved and in our future programming, and really move this culture creation thought process along at the very least every fourth Tuesday. And as you can see with Chautauqua and the different resources, I think we can fill in the year nicely and keep some momentum going so that this is not the end of a program, but marks the beginning of imagining, creating a climate of sustainability and appreciating the place-based lifelong learning that every one of us is really involved with. So, got to wrap it up. I can't thank you enough. Joy, thank you again at the library for hosting this series. Mark, welcome to the neighborhood, and good to have you on board. JD, you've been a great partner. I see the rest that are here, Jay and Susan, and who else do we see? Ryan, there you are, Jay Jean, and the folks that have been listening and participating through this whole program. Thank you so much for making this all come together. It's been a fun 10 weeks and one of integrity, I believe, the integrity of Western New York, Greater Buffalo, at its best, showing the capabilities that we have here. We'll keep it going. Thanks again, and have a good day and be well.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.